Hello. Happy day, guys. So, this week's episode, the theme, I'm gonna just tell you straight up, is rest. Okay. So, earlier this week, I've been operating, moving, functioning, and going about my days. And I was so perplexed. Is that the right word to use in this particular moment? I could not figure out why I was getting enough sleep at night, but yet I still felt tired. So, and the thing is, the symptoms were everywhere. I remember asking my mother, Mom, I'm getting a lot of sleep, like enough sleep at night. I'm eating well, like my diet is fairly healthy. I don't understand why I still feel tired. And then it wasn't until I had a conversation this week with a writer I met in the city that made me realize I was on the verge of burnout. Can you imagine? But the thing is, there's a plus side to this. I am happy that I realized I was on the verge of burnout. But it wasn't pleasant to experience those symptoms. Anyway, so today's episode is titled, Why Resting as a Writer is Vital for Your Creativity. Okay, so when I'm talking about resting, I'm talking about the type of rest that is uninterrupted and very intentional, right? I actually made up a definition upon reflecting on this topic, and even after this conversation I had with this writer, right? It was a very good conversation because it helped me really become very intentional, especially this week with resting. So the definition I made up of rest is the opportunity for your mind to receive the beauty of the present without the distraction of consumption and interruption of the future. So the definition of rest I made up is the opportunity for your mind to receive the beauty of the present without the distraction of consumption and the interruption of the future. So I'm going to break down this definition because when I was reflecting, you may have just heard my pen clicking, but when I was reflecting on this, I really felt like this really embodies what I mean when I'm talking about rest. Because when your mind is able to be present, like fully present, it is very different than when your mind is sort of present, but you're saying you're present. I'll give you a perfect example because I have caught myself doing this, where I will be out on a walk and I've had my phone with me and I'm like, wow, the sky looks so beautiful. I'm like, oh, let me just respond to this email I just remembered I need to respond to, and I'll come back in to this moment. And then I pull up my phone, respond to an email. Oh, shocker. There was some text that needed my attention, so I respond to that. And then after I'm done that and I finally put my phone away, my mind is present, but it's not the same as had I been fully present the whole time without grabbing my phone to respond to those emails and those messages. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you're fully present, your mind is really able to focus with strategic intention for your benefit than when you're present, but you're not really there. Because I don't know if it's just me. If it's just me, that's cool. But I've found that when I'm not fully there, but I'm there, my mind sort of feels like it's doing a reset. So if I was present in the moment, I was here. And then if I shifted to respond to something on my phone and then check back into the present moment I'm trying to connect with, it feels like my mind was fully connected in the moment of being present. And then when I grabbed my phone, my mind did a reset and focus on the phone. And then when I was done with the phone, my mind had to do another reset to refocus back in the present, that when I checked back into what I was embracing and connecting with, right? Whether it was nature or enjoying family time or just even just being in silence with myself, it felt different because my mind had to shift and pivot multiple times than being on it constantly on a consistent basis, present in the moment. So it didn't really have the opportunity to gradually grow that focus, you know? So it almost feels like you're restarting, entering the moment of being present. So when I'm talking about being able to receive the beauty of the present. That's what I'm talking about. Being able to be present in the moment consistently without interruption. And the kind of interruptions I'm talking about is, yes, the distraction of consumption and the interruption of the future of what can be. And I'll give you a very practical example of what that looks like. So without the distraction of consumption, that's just referring to distracting yourself with your phone or with television or with a device of some sort. Essentially, rather than being present in the moment, and we don't do this on purpose. I did not know I was doing this on purpose, to be honest. I did not know I was doing this intentionally. But I found myself literally, I'll be in a space of silence in my room and I'll grab my phone to just kind of scroll, whether it's through emails or sometimes on social media. And I'm sitting there scrolling, but I deceived myself into thinking I was being present with myself. And I was like, yeah, I'm being present. I'm gaining all this good stuff on social media. I'm looking at a few encouraging posts. So I'm definitely like being in the moment with myself. No, I was being in the moment with my phone. And this is the thing I'm realizing is that you can distract yourself with good things. I say this, that I do this. And if you don't do this, that's fine. But you can distract yourself with good things like a podcast or reading a book. I'm the queen of Audible. I have multiple books I'm listening to on Audible. And I like to sometimes just listen to them because I'm learning all this good stuff. But sometimes it's really nice to give your mind the space to just focus on your presence. I wonder what would happen if you allowed yourself to simply exist with yourself. We enjoy so much of connecting with other people and existing with them because it feels great. But then I start to wonder, do we feel the same when it comes to just being present and existing within ourselves? Right? It's just a thought to consider because I'll give you it's an example of how I view existing, right? I picture life as a song. If your life is a song and every, event, every part of your personality resembles a note, your song for your life is so beautifully unique that to attempt to try and copy and mimic anyone else's life or anyone else's song would do a disservice to who you are and the things you've experienced that have shaped you and that help you connect to your audience, right? So if your life is a song and you're existing in the world, can you imagine the beauty that comes from people being able to hear and encounter your personal song, right? So when I say existing, it's just from the perspective and understand the perspective, correction. It's just from the perspective of being with yourself. And with the example of the song, it's simply allowing yourself to hear your own song. It's one thing to want to listen to, the music of, I don't know, what's the name of an artist? For some reason, my mind is blanking right now. I don't understand why. But let's say listen to the song of, I don't know, CeCe Winans or something, or Rihanna or something like that, right? We enjoy being able to connect with artists and their music on those levels. But then what happens when the song of our life is playing within us and we are trying to get all this good stuff, the books, the podcasts, the audibles. Your girl is like queen of Audible, okay? The audibles, watching all these teachings, listening to all the stuff that is really good because it helps us with personal development. But then when the song of your life is trying to exist with you alone in your presence, why then distract yourself? Because the good stuff, like the books that are helping you grow and become better, become a distraction when it is time for your mind to try and connect with yourself, which, with the example of the song, looks like allowing yourself to listen and hear your own personal song, as you connect either in nature, being present with friends and family, or even just in silence, right? So that's what I mean when I say the distraction of consumption, because consumption can really be a distraction. Hence why I said even the good stuff can turn into a distraction if it prohibits you or somehow deceives you. And I say this because I'm realizing it's a deception. I'm like, I'm getting all this good stuff to help me, but it's like, okay, but what about where I'm at right now? Where I'm at is good enough to process, to experience. Yes, I will always be growing. Yes, I will always be evolving. But where I'm at right now is pretty great. Let me experience this. Let me connect with myself as I just sit in silence or go for a nature walk or hang around with my family and friends uninterrupted, no distractions, just we're connecting in conversation. Or if we're watching a movie together, we get to laugh at the jokes because we're connecting at the humor of what we're watching. I hope that makes sense. And then the last part of the definition I made up of rest is the interruption of what can be. What does that look like? The interruption of what can be, which is the interruption of the future, is when you allow your future goals to start to almost derail your present goals. And this is just from the perspective of understanding that you have you've already created a plan. You have a plan, and your current to-do list and your current goals are steps and nodes in your map that are leading you directly to that future goal you're looking at. But then when you look at that future goal and start to focus on that more than your present to-do list, we almost invite a level of, I don't know if it's stress or anxiety, but it's like a level of frustration or anxiety that starts to set in because now we start doubting whether the present can help us get to the future because we're so fixated on that future goal. But if the plan you have is already helping you connect to your future goal, why are you allowing that to interrupt your current flow with your present goals, with your present to-do list? Don't do that. That's why I'm saying resting in its entirety, when we're trying to rest mentally especially, is really about receiving the beauty of the present without allowing the distractions of consumption and the interruptions of the future to interfere with us experiencing our own existence as we connect with ourselves via nature, via spending time with family and friends, and all that beautiful stuff. Even a way you might connect with yourself is by painting a picture. I do that. Sometimes I'm like, I feel an emotion and I just feel like I need to let it out. And when I do that, it's like I'm connecting with myself, because for me to be able to deliver the emotion or deliver the image I'm experiencing or seeing within, I have to connect with myself to bring it out onto a canvas, So I hope that makes sense. So when I'm talking about resting this week, guys, really check in with yourself. I had to check myself today because I found myself trying to scroll on social media, and I said, no. You learned this week that resting means that you're not allowing yourself to become distracted when your body and your mind both want to rest. Because, right, earlier in the week, like I said, my body was getting the amount of rest it needed, but somehow I was exhausted. Why? My mind wasn't getting the rest it needed. I kept filling the rest gaps my mind needed with consumption. I was consuming TV, consuming social media, consuming Audible books on Audible, consuming podcasts, just consuming, and my mind said, I just want to connect, which led to me being more intentional with going for a walk. And I said, wow, the sun looks beautiful. And I felt energized because my mind needed that. Today I had a conversation with someone and it was so filling. When you have those energizing conversations that are things you did not know you needed in the moment until it happened, that was that conversation. Sometimes it's okay to take a pause. Now, if you need to take a whole vacation, shut down or whatever, do what works for you. But my focus for today's episode is to introduce you to a level of rest that helps your creativity, because as a writer and as a creative, if we're not resting in the way that I've described, what happens is that you start to hinder and limit your capacity for creativity. And I am not saying that you somehow stop being creative. No, your creativity still exists, but the force, or how do I explain it? Let me give you an imagery, because I'm seeing an image in my head, right? It's like a tank filled with water, and there's this pipe. And when you're constantly consuming, you're filling this pipe with stuff. So then when you try to be creative, all you're getting is droplets rather than the full flow of what should be, right? And then on top of the consuming, if you're now having anxiety or focusing so much on the tomorrow and on the future of things rather than the present goals and your present list that will help you get to that tomorrow, that will help you get to that future, now you've almost like sort of shut the tap that's connected to the pipe. Not because you've tightened it completely like it's off, but the shifted focus now is another blockage. I hope that makes sense. So when I'm saying rest, this kind of resting you can do on a daily basis. This kind of resting is just a way for you to be present and to check in with yourself. That's why I said it could look like just hanging out with your friends and family without the distraction of feeling like you need to constantly be on your phone. It could look like you're going for a walk and you're saying, wow, the sky is normally blue, but today it looks really bluey, and it looks really bluey good. So whatever that looks like for you, it could mean just writing a story that your mind seems to be so inspired by. It could mean creating a song or creating an artwork that is coming from within you, so it requires you connecting with the emotion or the image you're experiencing or seeing in your mind to get it out onto paper or onto a canvas. Whatever existing and connecting with yourself looks like, do it on a daily basis. It doesn't require you shutting your whole day down. It could look like 10 minutes. It could look like 30 minutes. I would suggest, honestly, 2 hours if you're able to. But make time to reconnect with yourself and exist. It's a beautiful thing for people to enjoy your presence and say how much they love spending time with you. But how about you also enjoy the beauty of the presence that you bring and enjoy spending time with yourself in whatever way that looks like for you? So I hope that made sense. Today's podcast was really just me just wanting to share the things I had learned this week via conversation, via me realizing I was on the verge of burnout and I did not know it. So I hope that made sense. I hope you're encouraged by this, because when I create these episodes for you guys, I'm not trying to create something that is trendy or something that is like in season. I am sharing the things I am learning and continue to overcome on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, and the things I have overcome, in hopes of encouraging you to know that you can do this. You can be a writer. You can be a creative, and everything in life is a process, and it's okay to start with where you're at, because you will have more to share as you evolve, right? Even the knowledge I'm sharing right now, probably a year from now, I'll come back and talk to you about rest, and it will be an enhancement of the conversation we've had today. So that's all I really have for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys next week. Okay, bye.